Hey everyone, it's Michael. I have kind of a new series I want to start. As the title shows, this is probably going to be called things like Goosebumps, or a Goosebump fan reviews, or something like that. I don't know what I want the official title to be. I'll put it up there anyway, or down there, whatever it is when you're looking on a laptop versus on a mobile device. But anyway, I wanted to talk about things that movies, books, games, anything like that that I find that is a lot like Goosebumps, whether it be anthological, I guess, would be the word to use instead of anthology. Whether it be something that just feels like that tone, like a lot of people talk about the Shivers books, for example, or Goosebumps. Goosebumps was pretty, or Goof Lumps, excuse me. Goof Lumps was really popular back in the day too. I don't own any of those. I don't know if they're any good, but people tell me they are. They're apparently really witty parodies, supposedly. I don't know. But of course there are things like Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark by Alvin Schwartz that they have the new movie coming out. I'd like to talk about that a little bit, but I might wait off. I'm not really sure. I might talk about the movie and not the books because I love the books. I actually bought another box set for the movie releases with the movie covers on them today. But I thought it'd be cool if I started talking about things every once in a while that are kind of like Goosebumps, maybe to introduce you guys to some stuff you don't know about. Maybe you could introduce me in the comments to stuff that I don't know about. I thought it'd be fun. Today, I thought I would do two videos talking about two individual books, not in this video, but one here, one immediately after it, talking about some books that utterly petrified me. One that I read recently, and this one in particular I read, as a child, and it scared me to death. This book, of course, is written by Alvin Schwartz, also, who wrote or adapted these stories, or whatever we're going to call them, from, he's the same author who did the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark books. So if you love those, for the actual stories, not so much the artwork, because the artist is not the same, then you will love In a Dark, Dark Room and Other Scary Stories. Now mind you, yes, it is an I Can Read Level 2 book, right? Like, you're teaching kids how to read with this. The pages have the art on one side, and then on the next side of the pages, they have, like, really giant font, right? This is only about 60 pages long. It's a very thin book, but look at this art, man. I'm going to tell you a story that's going to probably impress you. By the way, the pictures are done by Dirk Zimmer. Dirk Zimmer, you fellow, you scared me to death when I was a child. When I was a kid, my friends and I fought all the time in elementary school about this book. There was this book, and there was a book about cats being dressed up in like human clothes and being in like little townhouses and beds and stuff like that. It was real weird, but we were all obsessed with that book and this book. This book scared me so bad. I think my friend Nicholas, when I was a kid, showed this to me. And Nicholas told me how scary it was, and I didn't think it would be that bad, because I was the kid that loved things like Michael Myers and Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees and all these things. And I borrowed this one time from my library at my elementary school, and it petrified me. And mainly for one particular story in here. There's actually 7 short stories in here. They're typically anywhere from 4 or 5 pages long to like 7 or 8. But like I said, the font is so big they might as well be like a page-long story, kind of like Alvin Schwartz typically wrote in the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark books. The art is what makes them even scarier, kind of like with Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Dirk Zimmer's art, in my opinion, is just as effective and evocative, I guess is the word I want to use. It evokes a terror, like a deep primal terror, that goes along with how Alvin Schwartz writes a deep primal terror too. Now, for anybody who doesn't know this, I'm currently working on a short story collection for kids' horror books, or something. I'm working on my own private property with this thing. I want to develop it. I kind of want to be my own R.L. Stine of my generation, but kids don't read, so it probably won't matter. But still, the biggest influence, aside from R.L. Stine on my writing style currently, is Alvin Schwartz, because he takes a very mythological type of, not even a mythological, but more of like an urban legend feel. And he adapts a lot of urban legends to actual stories, like The Hook. He did that in Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, either 1, 2, or 3, because there's only 3 of those. But one of them he did that in. And here he kind of does the same thing. So for example, there was a story in here called The Green Ribbon. And The Green Ribbon is about a girl who, for some reason, no matter what she did her entire life, she had a green ribbon that she wore around her neck all the time. And nobody knew why. Even one day when she gets married, her husband does not know why she wears this green ribbon around her neck. She never shows it to him, never reveals it to him. Then on her deathbed, he finds out. And I won't spoil it for you. And I recommend this book whether you're an adult or a child or anything. If you just like horror, pick this book up. Now, don't pick up the new version that's like at Target and Walmart and stuff, because they changed the art. They did the same thing they did with Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. I don't know what it is about people when it comes to Stephen Gammell or when it comes to, or Gamble, however you say his last name, and then Dirk Zimmer, they always want to change Alvin Schwartz artists, pictures, and you ruin it that way. This and Scary Stories Tell in the Dark did not affect me when I was a child in the sense of traumatizing me for the rest of my life. Now, it petrified me when I was younger, but I've always remembered this book, and when I found out what the title was and I got a copy last summer, I was so excited about it because it was so great. The Green Ribbon, though, that story scared me so bad when I was a child. And then there's like one story about the teeth, and that was a weird one too. And then there's the story In a Dark, Dark Room that isn't even scary. It's about the art. Like the cabin on the front of the book is involved here, and it is just such a bizarre, like, scary book, And even when I read it the last couple of times, like since last year, there's just something about this book that scares me. If you've ever heard of the creepypasta called, I think it was Cave Cove or something like that, it's about a group of friends talking about an old show that might have existed when they were kids. Of course, this is based around nothing. This is just adults in a short story talking about a show that might have existed when they were kids that terrified them. And it's the same concept. I could not for the life of me remember what this story was or what this book was called. And when I finally found it, I was so excited about it. And the book scared me to death. Even when I read it last year, like I said, and the last couple of times I read it since then, there's just something about it. I don't know what it is. The art looks textured. The texture of the art itself is something that adds so much to this Alvin Schwartz story collection. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. I love it. There's a story in here, too, that adapts the old folk song, There Was an Old Lady, All Skin and Bones. I think it's just called All Skin and Bones, but there's kind of a change on lyrics. Apparently there's a big debate on what the actual lyrics were, and that people always switched them around. Different people from different areas in the country, in countries, I guess, changed around the different lyrics and stuff and would have different, different pieces to the song that some had and some didn't. It was a very weird situation, but there were stories like that in here that, again, this is legit a children's book. Like, I'd argue that a lot of Goosebumps books I don't think are for children, per se. I think they're more for teens and young adults sometimes. There's certain ones, like Egg Monsters from Mars, that I think kids will be fine with. But this is a book that's genuinely meant for young kids, and I think it's scarier than most Goosebumps books. At least the Green Ribbon short story as it is. I don't know how else to put it. I recommend this tremendously. I know it's a weird video to make for a Goosebumps fan recommends type thing. I don't know what else to call it. It's something along those lines, but this genuinely scared me. There's something about it, even to this day. I don't think it's just a bare bones nostalgic reminder type thing. I think it's genuinely scary. I could not recommend Alvin Schwartz In a Dark, Dark Room and Other Scary Stories more to you if you haven't checked it out before. Definitely scary, definitely fun. Again, if you just look for a fun book, this probably won't scare most people, but for some reason, there's a weird thing about this. It bothers me a lot, and like a weird primal level too. It gets into you. I don't know what it is about it. It just is. And I read this late at night too when I read it for the first time last summer again. For the first time in many, many, many years. But I'll show you some examples of the artwork as well. Here's a great example of that textured look I was talking about. Like, you can see the patterns and stuff like up here on the walls and everything. It just looks really, really clever and well done. I'll find some of the stories to try not to spoil anything for you. Here's In the Graveyard that had to do with the old lady all skin and bones story I was telling you about. Well, I think it did. I believe it did. It's something like that. But look at this art, man. This isn't a children's book. And I'm not like the person that's like, oh, think of the children. I'm saying, like, let's appreciate this. Why change the art and re-release it just to make a cash grab off of some creepy stories that you changed the art for and showed no respect to Dirk Zimmer himself, or Alvin Schwartz for that matter? Alvin Schwartz is dead. He doesn't even get to be here to see the Scary Stories Tell in the Dark book or movie adaptation of his stories, which I'm really excited about, by the way. I really am, and I can't wait to see it and talk about it too. In a Dark, Dark Room and Other Scary Stories. What do you think about it? Did you read this when you were a kid and absolutely petrified by it too? I would love to hear what you have to say down below. If I had to rate this book on a 5-star basis, again, for what it is as a kid's book, being creepy stories for children, being fun creepy stories, being stuff that will affect your kids, and they'll remember it, I promise you. They'll remember it the rest of their life. I'm a great testimony to that. If you show them this version, I'd recommend it as a 5 out of 5-star read. I really love it. I think it has so much going for it. Not all the stories are scary. Some have a little bit of humor to them. There's some great stuff in here, man. Again, to be so short, to be like 60 pages and have a font that's so huge. This book flies by, but it's such an experience, man. You can read this in like 20 minutes, not even that. And I think, personally, the Green Ribbon will stick with you the rest of your life. You'll never forget that story. Because I've never heard any story kind of like it, like from any other area, like maybe X-Files talked about it, or did their own little play on it, or like Supernatural or anything, any of those TV shows or anything. I don't think I've ever experienced anything like that, like in a film or anything, you know? So it was weird to me. But anyway, 5 out of 5 stars for me. I recommend the book tremendously, at least this version. Like I said, I don't recommend the modern version. I don't like the art. I looked into it, and I'm very thankful I was able to get this and the original art for Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. But anyway, thank you for watching, folks. Let me know some other stuff you might want me to recommend at some point, or not even recommend, but review, I guess, for things that might be kind of like Goosebumps. I don't know, I kind of lean more towards just the children's properties rather than like anthology series like ABCs of Death. You know, I think it's too adult and too dumb, honestly, frankly, to really talk about those here on the channel. But things like this, I really recommend this as something to talk about, at least for an idea for these recommends or Goosebumps fan talks about or thoughts on or whatever you want to call these videos. Anyway, I'll figure out the title at some point. Thank you for watching, folks. I'd love to hear what you have to say down below about this book. Did this book scare you to death when you were a kid if you read it? Let me know. Thank you for watching. May the Lord Jesus Christ bless you guys today, and goodbye.